To the story now, South Africa's mining industry is losing billions of rands every year due to delays and lack of rail capacity to transport minerals. One solution to this problem could be third-party freight rail operators. To speak more on this, I'm joined by CEO of the African Rail Industry Association, Mesela Nhlapo. Ms. Nhlapo, thank you very much for your time and good morning. Now, firstly, for the benefit of those who might not be familiar with your association and its work, talk us through what you exactly do.
Good morning. We are an industry body representing companies who are manufacturers. The likes of Kibela are actually our members, multinationals, and also we are on a journey to ensure that SMMEs are developed in this space. But most importantly, we are an export council that is supported by the Department of Trade, Industry and Competition, so that we capacitate, we increase manufacturing in South Africa so that we're able to export, and but we are also able to take advantage of the CFTA. And increase intra-Africa trade.
Then talk to me about this bold attempt at revitalizing the rail sector that all of us are talking about now, particularly that third-party access to the country's rail sector. What do you make of it?
It's not bold. It's historic. In the history of rail in South Africa, this is the first time where the private sector has an opportunity to do business, to access the core network that is owned by government. So it's an opportunity not necessarily for creating jobs, but to ensure that we revive the manufacturing sector in South Africa. By reviving manufacturing sector, we create jobs. By ensuring that ugogo has electricity, ugogo has electricity, and the gentleman has a job to be able to afford the basic necessities. So this is not, a difficult thing for the railway sector. All we need is the right terms and conditions that are investor friendly to ensure that we are able to invest in the railway sector. And once we are able to invest, local manufacturing will definitely take place. That is a decision that we've made as an industry, that we have no one else but ourselves to ensure that this rail industry survives.
So it can unlock a lot of untapped potential, particularly the steel manufacturing industry. What other industries could be unlocked if we just had to finalize this process?
Gee whiz. Automotive sector, one. Driving on the N3, you can see the number of trucks that are on the road, and in my estimation, is that actually there's more trucks on the road than actually cars. We're looking at the forestry environment. We're looking at the agriculture. Many years ago, the concrete silos where they store grain always had a rail component to it, so that they're able to transport grain from point A to point B. So this is where the opportunities are. And it must be stressed that when we talk about private sector, we start talking about privatization, the state is selling assets. In this particular case, there is no privatization. all that we're asking for is the same thing that you will find on the N3. User pay principle. If I access the network, a Transnet network, I would pay to use that infrastructure. And in return, Transnet will now have a new revenue stream. And I think that will go a long way in terms of improving their balance sheet.
I'm glad you actually already touched on that, because when we talk privatization, then the politics of all of this come in, which we generally can't ignore, because if it's going the route of privatization, many then begin to speak of inclusive participation, that if the industry is going to be opened up, good and well, these are the type of reforms that are needed, but will this expansion in fact benefit both the big and small entrepreneur, because it's quite capital intensive, so many people might not even attempt to get into the space?
Look, I think it's important that as private citizens, we start doing things for ourselves and understand that e-council will not do everything for us.
Yes.
So as an industry, we have taken a stand that the third-party access has a potential of creating a demand of about 45 billion rands in terms of rolling stock. So now that rolling stock will be manufactured here. It can't be manufactured anywhere else. It has to be manufactured in South Africa, so that we realize the African Union as vision that South Africa will lead, will champion the manufacture of rail rolling stock. Here's a continent waiting for us. Recently, a eNCA document on the implementation of CFTA, they anticipate that more than 100,000 wagons will be required. Now, we have the skills, we have the know-how, but equally, it's not a South African responsibility only to manufacture everything in rail, but we as a continent and us identifying ourselves as Africans, we have a duty to work with our brothers and sisters on the continent so that we share those skills, that the manufacturing does not only take place in South Africa, that the entire continent grows economically. So it's South Africa, but the bigger picture is the continent. This continent, what we seek to achieve to increase intra-Africa trade is critical for the survival of many Africans on the mother continent.
No, it most certainly is a very bold and ambitious move to actually ensure that we survive going forward, because the situation is dire. But insofar as sufficient skills are concerned, do we have those in the rail sector? Because many people have migrated, they've been disgruntled. It's a lot. Do we have the skills still left in the country?
The skills issue, I have a personal problem with, because skills tend to be defined by those that have the technologies. And one thing that COVID has taught us as South Africa, as the world, is to use what we have. The skills are here. The recently Transnet, the number of Transnet highly skilled employees, they took their voluntary severance packages. So those companies, those individuals are actually now working with us to make sure that we improve the quality of our manufacturing. We ensure that we manufacture according to EU standards, so that we are able to export and compete with the rest of the world, the OEMs. It's up to us as South Africans, as business, to ensure that whatever that we can manufacture, we use what we have. Skills are there, and but having said that, we have a continent that has young people that are deemed not to have skills. We need to relook at that, because if we are not going to upskill the youth of the continent, then we'll be in serious trouble. Then we will continue having the councillor that is not providing electricity. Then we will continue to have Umam Dlamini angana electricity. So it's important that as Africans, we understand properly that what we have, what is it that we can use as Africans, and we're South Africa, we're a resilient a country. Let's use what we have. Whether one is talking about PRASA, one is talking about a Transnet, let's stop talking past each other. Let's talk to each other, because that's where the solutions are going to come from. Not everyone knows everything, but by talking to each other, government and civil society, this is where the solutions are going to come from.
No, we're certainly a very resilient society, and somehow South Africans need to turn around the situation that we're in right now. Thank you very much, Mesela, for partaking in our conversation around infrastructure and the revitalization of that rail sector. That was Mesela Nhlapo, CEO of the African Rail Industry Association.